Hello and welcome to the EmpowHer Collective show, formerly the Dr. Celia Corbo show. I'm your host, Dr. Celia Corbo, entrepreneur, functional health practitioner, and licensed chiropractor. Join us as we dive into stories of remarkable women making a difference and transforming their dreams into reality. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted by the incredible women of the EmpowHer Collective. Today on the show, we have Gabby. Gabby is the founder of the 1% Woman, high performance life coaching for high achievers who desire to overcome mental blocks and heal from burnout while pursuing their ambitious dreams. She uses her background in neuroscience to create an inside out transformation, helping you become the woman you are meant to be so that you can have a fulfilling life. Hi, Gabby. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
Me too. I love that bio. I'm all about the nervous system and neuroscience. Like I love taking all those courses in university and then hence why I became a chiropractor. But I love that you are making it this thing to help women and not just educate them about it. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I actually originally when I started my entrepreneurship journey, I wasn't really leveraging my background in neuroscience. And then as I explored inner work and healing, I was like, oh my gosh, this actually has a lot to do with the actual wiring of your nervous system and your brain. And so the work I really do with a lot of my clients is helping them peel back the layers of what's actually going on a subconscious level from a beliefs and a behaviors and a pattern perspective, even like on the identity level, really creating massive shift there. So I really say, I desire to create an identity upgrade. And I think that that's been my own personal journey, is just constantly evolving my identity into like a higher, more conscious version of myself, and helping women do that by getting to the root of the beliefs and the behaviors that we need to reprogram and rewire in your mind and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's huge. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's definitely so cool because when
Yeah.
you come on and you get to almost like open their eyes to all these blind spots that they
Yeah.
didn't even realize were showing up, whether it's in their relationship with themselves or their health or their relationships with others or their business. So it's just been really cool because you get to like show them a whole side of themselves that they weren't even like recognizing.
Yeah. I feel like as female entrepreneurs, we are our biggest critics and we're so hard on ourselves. So even, me having my own coach as well, it's like you're a coach, but you also need a coach because they will just tell you how it is. This is what you're doing. This is what you need to be doing instead. Talk to yourself this way or that way. Like it's really massive to have someone there guiding you because it can spiral pretty fast.
Oh, yeah, there's like that quote that I love so much is like, you can't change your thinking with the same level of thought that created that thinking.
Oh, I
And so
love that.
having that person to like give you that third party view or perspective. And also I find a lot of times it's really hard to reprogram or rewire or change your beliefs when there's also emotion attached to it. And it's
Mhm.
really difficult for you to detach yourself from that emotion when you're actually in it. And so to see it from a very more objective perspective,
Mhm.
whatever the trigger is or whatever's going on or the insecurity that's being brought to the surface, having that third party, very objective view of it to completely create a reframe. Ultimately,
Yeah.
that's what a lot of the work that I do is like helping you create powerful reframes for the things that are blocking you. It's really important because it's really hard to see things from a different perspective than you're already seeing them.
Yeah. You know what? I even found in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey of starting my chiropractic practice, I was so emotionally involved. I couldn't make a very good sound decision because the emotions were very like they made everything hazy in a way. And I knew that I should do something, but then I wasn't sure. Will my patients like it? Will I like it? But having that third party is just like, no, you should do this or do this, but in a different way. So it's a nice kind of, refresher to have someone there guiding you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because honestly, like coming from a place of leadership, like leading from
Mhm.
emotion, just generally, you're not going to be making the
No.
best decisions. You're going to be making very like reactive decisions.
Yeah.
I always like to differentiate, you have the fact and the feeling. And making
Mhm.
decisions from the facts is usually what's going to lead you down the best path versus like just letting your feelings, where we're probably going to choose something that's going to lead to some type of like instant gratification or really go down the path of safety, which
Mhm.
ultimately we're not here to do as high achievers. Like, we're here to push the boundaries, to be, living on that edge of our comfort zone. And that's really where the growth gets to occur. So I think also the other thing you mentioned a lot when it comes to entrepreneurship, which is one of the most difficult things, is like we are so attached to the work that we do because we're so passionate about it.
Yes.
And that attachment is all of those emotions because it is an extension of us, ultimately, our business. And so it's a matter of also a lot of the work that I do with my clients is learning how to create that healthy separation between you and your business, while also understanding that your business is always going to be an extension of you. So you are the foundation of it, and prioritizing that. Your relationship with yourself, your mindset, your identity, your habits, your behaviors, your beliefs, your business is just going to mirror all of that back to you.
Yeah. It's so true. It is such a reflection of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it gets a little bit scary, because you don't want to come across as greedy, or you don't want to come across as like a doormat, or, you really just want to come across as a strong business owner. But sometimes the choices you make, you're like, I don't know. Am I supposed to do that? Is this what I should do? But I'm curious to know, because I'm assuming you studied neuroscience in school and you had a huge academic background, but then how did you get into becoming a coach and incorporating all of this into practice and working with such amazing women to up-level their businesses?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is a great journey, to be honest.
Share.
My coaching journey actually started as health and fitness coaching. So back in 2020, I launched a health and fitness coaching company. So when I was in college studying neuroscience, I went into college with the neuroscience degree. And then I actually suffered with an eating disorder while I was in college. And I added a second degree of nutrition. And so a lot of what I studied in school was the link between like nutrition and neuroscience, or just living a healthy lifestyle in general. I mean, a lot of like the nitty gritty research I did was around gut health, like the gut brain connection. But macro level, big picture, it was like, how can we heal mental health challenges or disorders with just a healthy lifestyle approach, whether that was nutrition, or that was movement and exercise, or that was a lot of the work that I did and I studied. And I had a coach in college who helped me with my relationship with food and body and exercise. And that's what inspired me to get into the coaching space. I started my business in 2020. I launched my brand, my brand at the end of 2020. It was called Define. And the whole kind of like premise of my brand was that you are not defined by your body or food or exercise. And it was really revolved around helping women heal their relationship with themselves through the lens of fitness, because that was kind of my journey. And as I went on the path of entrepreneurship, as we know, it is a roller coaster, and I wasn't prepared, and I didn't understand that like entrepreneurship is literally personal development with a paycheck. So I got caught up in the burnout and the hustle culture and the how much money that am I making, and the right versus wrong ways to do business, and like following the blueprint, like cookie cutter masculine approach. And ultimately I burned out. I burned out from my business, and I realized that like my whole identity was lost to my business and fitness also. Like that had become my whole identity for 5-6 years. And I realized I was at this peak where I was making 30 to 40K months, and I was like, I'm so unhappy. I literally have everything that I ever dreamed of, and I'm not happy, and I'm burnt out, and my relationships feel so surface level. I'm honestly unhealthy. Like my hormones are just out of whack. I'm running on cortisol. I remember I got my blood work done, and like my cortisol was at like a 24, which is just like ridiculous. And so I was like, okay, like I need to do me work. Like I need to go back and work on me. And what I recognized was the same exact pattern that showed up in my eating disorder, where I took something to a really unhealthy extreme because my identity was defined by this external form of validation, also showed up in my business. And I was like, this is the pattern. This is the pattern. And like, this is the work that I meant to do. This is the bigger picture beyond Define. Like I had the root, I had the core mission of like purpose of what I was here to do. But I was like, I'm not here to just do this through the lens of health and fitness. Well, like that's awesome. I want to go bigger, and I want to not even bigger, but I want to do it differently. Like I see a purpose in helping entrepreneurs on this journey of like, there are so many incredible business coaches out there who can help you build a business and help you make more money. And that's great. I love that. And I want you to continue to strive for those ambitious goals. And also like, I want to work on the leader behind the business. I want the woman to do it in a way that actually creates the life that you want to live and creates a fulfilling life and is able to make a bigger impact because you're able to go deeper within yourself. And creating more conscious leaders, honestly, is really what I want to do. So that became my journey, towards the end of 2021. After I had hit burnout, I hired my own personal development coach. I started to peel back the layers and all of the I'm not good enough isms that I was recognizing were showing up in my life and my business, and how I truly was defining my worth by things like how much money that I was making or what I look like or validation from others or these external forms of validation, how I was on this rat race, how I was like chasing this. And I was like, we're going to slow it down. So that really started my journey of personal development a little bit deeper. Obviously, I'd done surface level personal development in my eating disorder, right? You have to do some of that. I went to therapy. I did all of that stuff. And then actually in the beginning of 2022, I had a huge like life altering wake up call. My dad passed away in April of 2022 very suddenly.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It was a breakthrough kind of scenario where it literally just made me question everything about myself and my life and what I wanted and what was successful, what success actually meant, actually literally seeing someone like lose their life years in advance of when they thought they were going to, and like recognize the legacy and the impact that was left. It had nothing to do with anything materialistic, anything that he had achieved, and all about the type of man that he was. And like, that's what people remember him by. And when I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have defined success so, materialistically. And it just continued to reemphasize that theme that was showing up in my life, that it's an inside job. And like, that's what we are here to do as humans, is to really become the best version of ourselves and to let that create our impact, to let that be the driver of everything that we do and create within our life. And so that took me even deeper into a journey of inner work. And when I started to really incorporate in, okay, I have to completely reprogram and rewire all of this in my mind, because this has been conditioned. These are beliefs. This is like literally the way that I have worked. And it took a lot of reprogramming, because a lot of those unhealthy beliefs and those unhealthy behaviors honestly got me a lot of success.
I don't think it was your true version of success. I thought it was what you thought success was. Right?
Got me the money. It got me the validation. It got me the quote unquote like abundance. It got me the body that everyone dreams to have. And it got me those quote unquote results that I thought were going to bring me said happiness. And so it took a lot of repatterning and reprogramming of who am I? I'm not this like, who I thought that I was. Ultimately, I was wearing all the masks. I was putting myself into the box of who I thought I needed to be. And that's when I was inspired to start the 1% Woman, because I think that this is something that all of us very ambitious 1%ers are. Like, there are we are different. We are wired different. And I think it takes a very unique approach to inner work and personal development than like your typical person who needs the, motivational, inspirational, you can do it type of, pat on the back. You already know that you can do it. You already know that you are capable of it. You've already proven that to yourself. But now you're burnout. And now we need to completely redefine who you know yourself to be and what you are driving towards within your life to actually create this sense of fulfillment and happiness and true success.
Yeah. Man, I'm burning up with questions. I don't even know if we're going to get around to answering all of them, but you said so many things. I'm like, I have to ask that. I have to ask this. I was honestly like, I love this. Like, you shared so much information, and thank you so much, because it really goes to show how, on Instagram, it's saturated with coaches. Like, let's be honest, every third person I see as I'm scrolling is a coach. But there, but there is really something to be told about when you resonate with someone and when you find that authenticity with that person, that, you know, whether it be a health coach or, you know, an entrepreneur coach or tech coach or whatever. And you're like, wow, this just makes sense because they've also gone through that journey, right? And they've
Exactly.
also gone through those highs, but also those like really low lows, right?
Mhm.
So you mentioned something about the masculine approach. That's my first question.
Okay.
This masculine approach to entrepreneurship, because I think that I have definitely been in there. Because as I
Mhm.
study neurology and I know about the male and female brain, as a female becomes more masculine, it's actually a sign that they're heading towards dis-ease. So I want to hear about these different approaches. And are we seeing more females trending towards that male approach? And how can we reverse it?
Yeah, for sure. I think like our society is built off of that like quote
Yeah.
unquote, masculine approach to success. And I love that you use the word dis-ease because
Hmm.
that's what we find is it creates a lot of resistance and
Yeah.
friction towards the approach that you're taking inside of your business.
Yeah.
And so while it works. Also, unproven evidence that it works. You're going to experience a lot of resistance, friction, and dis-ease. It's
Mhm.
going to feel hard and you are
Mhm.
going to burn out. And so we need to find an approach that actually feels really good for you, that doesn't burn
Mhm.
you,
Mhm.
which isn't necessarily the, wake up and work for 14 hours, grind, 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 never stop until you reach some finish line that doesn't actually even exist.
Yeah.
And, that's like more the masculine approach is very sitting in the doing. And I think the masculine is so important, but we need to pull out as women the very healthy versions of pieces of the masculine. A
Mhm.
man is here to achieve, to do. We
Yeah.
are not.
Yeah.
But we can. And we can do such amazing and powerful things coming from like a different perspective, coming from a different place, coming from a healthier, embodiment of what achievement actually is.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think we can pull very healthy pieces out of that masculine because as women to thrive, yes, we need to. I think I don't want to see work. I think what we're actually seeing is more of a pendulum swing right now. Like
Yeah.
women, when COVID hit, we went there. This was me. Like COVID hit, very, very masculine. Now we're seeing
Mhm.
all these burnout women come
Yeah.
and swing into this feminine, very like flowy, no structure, like emotionally driven, that's like not actually seeing success or making progress at all. And then but, like we have to go through the pendulum swing. That's just like the
Yeah.
quantum physics of the world. Um but yeah, I think pulling the healthy pieces out of the masculine, the structure, the
Mhm.
doing, all very important. But
Mhm.
how can we do in a healthy way where we have boundaries and we
Mhm.
can turn off and our worth is not tied to success and money
Mhm.
and productivity, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's, pulling out the healthy pieces of the masculine. I like to think of when we think of masculine and feminine energies or embodiments, it's like the masculine is the cup, the feminine is the water.
Oh,
So
I love
without
that.
the cup,
Mhm.
there's a water that's a puddle, and you're actually like you can't drink the water because it's just puddled.
Mhm.
With a cup with no water is empty and unfulfilling.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
we need both the cup to provide the structure for us to actually be able to thrive and the water to actually flow and like feel that sense of freedom. To
Mhm.
me, if you are desiring more freedom in your life or in your business, you need to create more structures in your life and
Yeah.
your business
Yep.
because that opens the door. You need to create more boundaries in your life and your business because that
Mhm.
actually gives you the ability to lean all the way into whatever it is that you want to pursue when you're pursuing it.
Yeah. You know what? When I even set boundaries with myself, because I've had like so many different businesses throughout my whole life. And when I don't set those boundaries, oh my God, I burn out like that. Like it is so quick to just, I fry out. And luckily, my past businesses were only for a season. So, like teaching swimming or, you know, having a little, you know, thing on the internet and selling a product. And then once it was done, it was done. But now when you have it as a career, you
Mhm.
need to set that boundary. And I remember taking my work phone home with me and responding to patients when they would message and booking them in for their appointments. And I never stopped. And I I do regret it. Unfortunately, like I don't want to have regrets, but I do, because it burnt me out way faster than, it would have possibly taken if I just set that boundary.
Right. Like I had
Yeah.
burnout at age 23. Like
Yeah.
I had burnout. I had burnout in my eating disorder, like completely different type of burnout,
Yeah.
but also the burnout. Like, where are you taking things to very unhealthy extremes? And
Mm-hmm.
why are you taking them to those extremes? Probably because
Yeah.
there's some type of belief or identity attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
because there's this internal insecurity in your sense of self. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's really like where we need to peel back the layers and get to the root of. And I think to your question earlier around like, are we seeing women fall victim to this more masculine approach? I think, yeah, we definitely are, because like that's literally all that society knows to be
Yeah.
success so far. Like all of the very high achieving people in our society, like we haven't had a female president. Like that literally just shows like all of the very successful leaders in
Yeah.
the world are men. And so, yes, that is what we are modeled. That's what we're observing. That's what we're conditioned to believe is success, or
Mm-hmm.
what we need to do, or who we need to be in order to be successful. And we're slowly starting to unlearn that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool to see. And I think what we are seeing is actually men start to have a healthier approach.
Yeah.
Not be so heavy in their masculine, but also begin to embrace, I don't even want to call it feminine, but
Mm-hmm.
start setting boundaries. Start talking
Yeah.
about the emotional roller coaster that it is, and actually honoring the fact that it is an emotional roller coaster, not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
And actually, like, slow down a bit and be
Yeah.
like, check in with yourself and be like, hey, like, okay, my bank account is at a good place. Like, why do I need more? I don't
Mm-hmm.
need more. What I actually want more of is more fulfillment, more happiness, more inner
Yeah.
peace, more joy, more freedom, more
Yeah.
time with the people that I love. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I want more of. My bank account is providing me a sense of security and safety and structure.
Mm-hmm.
Great, we need that. And now I can go pursue these other things.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the male entrepreneur just right now, because male mental health is a huge problem. It's
Mm-hmm.
a huge thing. And we as women, I feel we are more supportive of one another. We are definitely there uplifting each other. There's like this unspoken sisterhood within each
Yeah.
of us. With men, they're like, I see my husband working. Like they work together, but they're kind of on their own. I see that pattern trending a lot with them. And it's a little bit sad, because then they don't feel vulnerable enough to share their emotions. They don't feel like they can talk about things, and it internalizes within them. And then there's other patterns of dis-ease that, that friction, that resistance that start to show up in their patterns as well. And it can lead to alterations in their success.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you have that kind of perspective on the feminine high achiever, or
Mhm.
the female high achiever, because I know that, like, when you are stuck in the masculine, that is a huge sign that you are
Yeah.
stuck in an unhealthy masculine, is when you are isolating yourself and when you
Yes.
feel like you are alone on this journey, because
Yeah.
that's not how women are supposed to do it or be. I don't, it's not how men are either. Like, right?
It's not. Yeah.
That's a female versus male, like the feminine masculine energies aren't female versus male.
Hmm.
Finding your kind of flow and balance of the two of them, whether you are a male or a female.
Yeah.
And so I personally, when I was burnt out, I had no friends. I had no quote unquote sisters. I had no
Yeah.
people to go to that I felt safe to go to, not because I didn't have them or they weren't available to me, but because I was too insecure to actually do it. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to open up. I didn't want to share. And that was coming
Hmm.
from my own internal insecurity and being so hyper masculine and feeling like, oh my gosh, if I were to open up and talk about the fact that, like, I am stressed all the time and burnout and anxious and I feel insecure and I don't feel good enough to on a woman or someone, a peer even,
Hmm.
like, that would make me feel inferior and less than, and that was a threat.
Yeah.
And in fact, like the coaches that I've had in my personal development journey have all been men.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until the end of 2023, after having two other men, like personal development mindset coaches,
Hmm.
that I was like, I need it to be a woman this time. Like, I
Yeah.
need to hire someone who is a woman and who can understand and kind of support me from a more like feminine place and perspective. And
Yeah.
so I think I've like really benefited from having both as like mentors and supporters. But
Hmm.
yeah, that I love that you brought that up, because that is a huge sign. If you are isolating yourself and you feel alone,
Yeah.
it's again going to create fractures in your ability to be as successful as you can be, because you are trying to be a lone wolf on this journey. And that's why I'm so passionate about making 1% Woman and building it as a community.
Yeah. Can you explain the name to us, 1% Woman? Because I love it, but I also am like, ooh, I can't wait to ask Gabby that on the show, because how did you even come up with that name? It's so unique. It is amazing.
Yeah, thanks. I had seen people on Instagram. Actually, so my personal development mentor back at the end of 2021, his partner talked a lot about this 1% woman archetype. And I was like, ooh, that really resonates with me. But it was just like in the back of my mind. It didn't really I never really thought anything of it.
Yeah.
And then I was actually doing a really powerful inner work exercise. This was like summer of, or like springish of 2023. Where I was like really unpacking all of the kind of memories of my life that were kind of, that I held like shame around or guilt towards, that were kind of like these negative breakdown, however, like pivotal moments of my life. Like I went all the way back to like my middle school days.
Yeah.
And I like really recognized that in all of those breakdowns that kind of came to the surface for me were within my relationships. And one, I think it just went to show how much I value relationships and how those are like literally the most important foundation of your life. Yeah. But two, what was actually happening in a lot of them that I found was I would outgrow them. So and the pattern that I found is that I had this need to create superiority in all of my relationships, to have this feeling of being in control or to feel good for the relationship. But that constant competitive nature, that constant need to be superior in all my relationships created a lot of tension and just like destroyed the relationship ultimately.
Yeah.
And so I called my mom, breaking down, crying. I was like, okay, I'm having a breakthrough, but like, I need your help to like rationalize this, because this is just making me feel about myself. Yeah. Like, I'm like, I need to be able to be in a relationship where like I'm going to feel safe and I'm going to feel like loved by like just being me and not needing to, earn the love or prove myself for it. And yeah, it just kind of, I came to realize that this pursuit of superiority, or this pursuit of differentiation, or this pursuit of like being on top or being like number one is a huge superpower that I have, because it's driven me to have a lot of success. Yet it's also my greatest shadow. It is my biggest weakness. Like this desire for dominance is a huge shadow of mine. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like this is both a very huge superpower. Like this is me, like the desire to dominate, to be competitive, to be superior. It's going to be what is going to help me create a really, externally successful life and achieve the impact that I desire to make, and also create the life that I want to live of like freedom and fulfillment. And also it will be my biggest demon along the way that I need to learn how to harness and alchemize and set boundaries around and create a healthy relationship with, so that it doesn't control me any longer. Because the only reason that it was sabotaging my relationships, my health, my business was because I wasn't aware of it. And I was constantly battling against it.
Yeah.
As opposed to really just like holding space for it and recognizing it and being like, oh, this is my sneaky little ego, which is usually what it is.
Yeah.
That was up constantly in all these areas. And I was like, I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only woman who is chasing after the desire to be a 1% woman and losing myself along the way, completely losing myself.
Yeah.
And so the name kind of came from that, is like a lot of people, not just women, but have this desire to be of the 1%, to be very dominant. And what does that actually take to be a 1%? It actually takes having the most unconditional relationship with yourself. It actually takes the personal development work. It actually takes all of the inner work. And the external stuff is just a byproduct of that. And that's kind of the message that I really hope to share, is that we think the 1% woman is the woman who has the luxury life, who's wealthy, who has the greatest body. Like, no, none of that matters unless she's truly a 1% woman within. And so that was kind of the beginning of the name. And there's just all these different reasons that the name just sticks and fits. Like, to me, I've always been someone who I set my mind to something, I do it. I've always been someone who's gone the different path than the average, than the typical person. And that's also the path, like what the name really kind of embodies is like, hey, 99% of people do this thing. You're a 1% woman. You do it this way. And kind of holding yourself to that higher standard.
Yeah.
It's what it really stands for as well. That higher standard truly of authenticity is like staying true to yourself and owning that and being proud of that instead of that being something that is an insecurity or weakness. Because I think that was also a journey of mine, is like always feeling misunderstood or different because I was like this visionary, very ambitious, goal-driven person who didn't want to be out partying and doing all of the, you know, the typical things. And I never really let myself be confident in being that type of woman. And so I always felt really insecure by that and misunderstood by that. But that's really just because I misunderstood that part of myself. And so really like coming to terms with like, I fully embrace the fact that I'm different and I don't want to do the typical, you know, 23, 24-year-old woman things. Like I have a vision, I have goals, I have a life, and I love the boring lifestyle. Like that's so really just like owning that within myself and knowing that there are people out there who are like me. Like I'm not that unique in that, you know? Some people really peel back the layer of the mask and realize that quite yet.
So that was incredible. And what I really took from that was, you know, these strengths are also your weaknesses or your shadows. So how do you help women embrace that shadow part of your strength, but not let it dim your light? Because you did mention things about boundaries and things like that, but how does someone go about just even starting to be like, okay, I'm in this zone right now and I accept that and I need to be over here, but within that same parallel?
Yeah, I think awareness makes it powerless. That's what I say. Awareness makes it powerless.
I love that.
So just being aware of it. And the thing about us women who are high achievers, awareness sometimes is our biggest kicker because awareness brings judgment. Awareness heightens the inner critic, heightens the self-doubt. And a quote or a term that I got from my therapist was compassionate curiosity. Like go into everything when you are exploring these shadows with very compassionate curiosity. You just want to get curious about it. You just want to understand it. Your shadows are for lack of a better word, like younger version of you. This is something that you just like learned or were conditioned to believe. And it likely just wants some attention, some love, some care, some understanding. Just get curious about it. And the more that you can unpack and understand about this shadow, the more compassionate you can be towards it. And the easier it becomes to recognize when it shows up. Because let's be honest, your shadows never go away. They just evolve and they just start to show up differently in different areas of your life. So for example, my shadows of dominance or hyper need for control, which is how I achieved that dominance, showed up in my eating disorder with my relationship with food. Like I needed to control everything that I was eating. Well, now I'm aware of it. And so it no longer has control over me. And whenever I do, find that, diet culture voice come out where the body image police start to like get loud, because we all have them and they all show up, I can be like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, you're funny. And I like to use humor to talk to my subconscious mind a lot because it kind of just like lightens it up. And, shadow work doesn't have to be deep and dark and hard. It can really lighten it, just be light. And the more awareness that you can create around it by exploring it with a lot of curiosity and a lot of self-compassion, I think the more powerless that it becomes. And then the second thing to recognize for all your subconscious patterns, which shadows are just things that are just in your subconscious that you aren't aware of, is recognizing that everything has a hidden advantage. So asking yourself, what is the hidden advantage of this? So for example, my really unhealthy relationship with food where I was restricting myself, or consciously I knew, like, this is so unhealthy, why are you restricting myself? This is miserable. What was the hidden advantage? Well, it made me feel confident in my body. It got me a lot of external validation. If anything, like, there was a program that built for a long time that, like, that's why I had a successful business, was because I looked the part. I looked the way.
Yeah, especially in the health industry.
Right. And so really, the more that I could recognize, oh my gosh, like, this is something that like literally my brain and my nervous system has attached to a need for survival. Like I need to look this way to feel good enough to survive, to be loved, to be successful, to make money, to be happy. Like that is the programming that was in my brain. And I had to do a lot of unpacking and a lot of unlearning, a lot of relearning to break free from that. But it allowed me to do that with a very much more like compassionate approach.
Yeah.
And I could recognize what the hidden advantage was to this. What is the hidden advantage to you not setting boundaries and working 14-hour days? Well, duh. If your self-worth is attached to your productivity, it makes you feel more worthy. Maybe it makes you feel more loved in your relationship because people are going up to you and be like, oh my gosh, like, I can never do what you do. It's so incredible and amazing how disciplined and hardworking you get. You know how many times people have said that to me?
Yeah, same.
It feels good.
It does.
So we're going to continue to want to go down the rail of pushing ourselves to really unhealthy extremes because it gives us the approval and the validation and what we have learned or taught ourselves in our brain that like that's what makes us feel more worthy and lovable.
Yeah.
And so it's unlearning that and being like, and I think one of the ways that I was able to do that so easily is like really just forcing myself to like pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
But like my relationships and the people that love me so much, don't love me more now, but like I feel that love more now.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually loved for me and not loved for the work that I'm doing or how much I'm working or what I'm achieving. And it never was about that. It's just my brain thought it was. It never was loved for all those external things. That's just what I thought it was. And the more that I allowed it.
That's because that's what you loved about you, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so the more that I was able to figure out who the heck I am beyond things, and love myself for all of that.
Yeah.
The easier that it becomes to kind of like unpack and relearn and rewire.
Yeah. Is it common to see a lot of the same mental patterns or the same, problems, for lack of a better word, come up with all of your clients? Or would you say that everyone's kind of dealing with their own thing?
I would say everyone's kind of dealing with their own thing. I thought the rabbit hole that you were going down is it common to see the same patterns show up for one woman like over and over and over again? And yes.
Oh yeah, okay, that too.
Basically coming from one core wound. Everyone usually has one core wound that is like constantly showing up. Yeah. And one of the ways that was actually really that opened my eyes and unfold those core wounds for me was the Enneagram test. Have you ever taken that or explored that?
Okay, no, but it sounds really familiar. I don't know.
The test, there's like 9 different personality types that it explores. Okay. And basically what it does is it reveals to you, again, take all personality tests with a grain of salt. Like you have to by your own personal experience.
I'm that person now.
but it does help you open the door. As we talked about, it's really hard to access those subconscious patterns, beliefs, and thoughts, but it can help you create awareness with compassionate curiosity. And awareness really is the superpower. It really is the key. But my very first personal development coach at the end of 2021, he showed the Enneagram to me or introduced that to me. And that's really what started my whole entire journey because I was like, oh my gosh, this is teaching me so much about my core fears and my core desires. Your fears that are like, the inner wounds and the desires that have kind of come from them. And that's what the Enneagram can show with like 9 different personality types.
Okay. I'm writing really open. I will remember to put it in the show notes.
You can take an Enneagram test or you can honestly, there's so much out there about the Enneagram that even if you just like read a few of the different personality types, you probably know which one resonates with you the most.
Yeah.
And that's really what a lot of people recommend is taking the test multiple times and kind of just like seeing because like every test is a little bit different in the questions that they ask. And so to get like the most accurate I guess, answer. And you're a little bit of all of them, right?
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast about like the 7 different archetypes of a woman from someone that I follow. And I'm like, I feel like I resonate with all of, and she even says, you are all of these and you are also none of these. And I'm just like, yeah, I know I'm more one than the other, but I really like that point that you made about like doing the test multiple times because
Yeah.
I usually do the test once.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm that person. And then I like fully resonate with it. But I'm like, no, I can do the test multiple times and be different answers because there's different versions of yourself.
Right. And
Yeah.
you're a little bit of all of them. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, yes, I think that everyone has a little bit of different, problems
Yeah.
based off of their own internal insecurities and wounds and conditioning and experiences. But I think like the overarching themes are very normal, and how they are expressed is typically really normal, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the nitty gritties, the specifics of what you work through are very different because everyone kind of installs those beliefs differently from different experiences and different authority figures and how
Mm-hmm.
that was like modeled for them. But ultimately, when it comes down to like success, there's one general shadow of success,
Yeah.
and that's really what's projected a lot of times in the
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism and the overwhelm and the disconnection and the burnout and the survival mode that
Mm-hmm.
often are just like common themes and threads that we see with
Yeah.
empathetic women.
Do you have like maybe like some top 3 tips you can help people with in overcoming those things, just on a very like basic, superficial kind of level, just to get them started?
Yeah, I think like the first thing that I would encourage you to do is like disattach yourself from your thoughts. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is the best thing that you can do. Your thoughts are I don't like to say that your thoughts are like what create your reality. I think your beliefs do.
Yeah.
The more conscious that you can become of your thoughts, the more conscious you become of what thoughts are actually beliefs. Because
Yeah.
there's a very big difference between your thoughts and your beliefs. Your beliefs are literally going to create your entire reality because that is the
Mm-hmm.
perspective that you see your whole life through and that you show up, especially your beliefs that you have about yourself.
Yeah.
But and we're very quick as humans to attach ourselves to our thoughts and to believe every thought that goes to our head to be true and to mean something about us.
Mm-hmm.
So really just, through the practice of meditation or just like slowing down or consciousness, awareness is like
Mm-hmm.
recognizing what are the thoughts that I keep on having? And
Yeah.
like, what is the evidence that I have for these thoughts to actually be true? What thoughts can I just let go of? What can I laugh at? What can I not, you know, um, allow to control my life. And so
Mm-hmm.
really recognizing these thoughts, that voice, all those voices in your head, practicing meditation to calm them down and to silence them and to I think that that's the very first place to start because your brain can be a whole
Yes.
lot of chaos. It's so hard to understand what's going on in there when you are go 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 all of
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Give yourself space and time to slow down and do mental workouts just as much as you would do physical ones. And that is the practice of seeing a thought, observing the thought, releasing the thought, or exploring it a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. So I think let's go to the 3 kind of pillars or aspects of your identity. The first thing
Yeah.
is your thoughts. The second one is your emotions. Tap into what are those emotions. A lot of us women suppress them,
Oh yeah.
and and that just bottles them up, and you have a crap ton of emotional baggage that you're carrying around that is weight and pressure.
Yeah.
Explore your emotions. Let yourself feel. Feeling is healing. But emotions are really just kind of what's the best word for this? They're feedback. You know,
Mm-hmm.
your emotions are trying to tell you something. They're
Yeah.
coming from a belief. So,
Yeah.
what is the belief that the emotions are coming from? Emotions only last like 90 seconds from like a physiological perspective. And so if you're being triggered by something and it's lasting longer than 90 seconds, if you are in a chronic state of stress, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there's something to explore because the only reason they last longer than 90 seconds is because the story that's attached to them that you're telling yourself about said trigger that allows them to continue to perpetuate.
Mm-hmm.
So explore the story of your emotions and where those emotions are coming from. I validate every single emotion. Every single emotion is valid, but the action that comes from said emotions aren't always.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
reactions aren't valid.
Yeah.
The emotions
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Oh, I love that second pillar. Oh my gosh, I've never heard it that way. You're teaching me so many things. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so happy. So yeah, you have your beliefs, you have your emotions, and then you have your behaviors. So
Mm-hmm.
your behaviors are the next piece of that, of creating your reality, your identity, and just like
Mm-hmm.
our inner workings itself. And so call yourself out. Call yourself out on where you aren't doing what you say that you are going to do, or being who you say that you're going to be. Because there's I think a lot of our internal suffering comes from cognitive dissonance between wanting or desiring or knowing who we could be or what we want, yet our actions aren't actually aligned with them. Our beliefs aren't actually aligned with them. And so there's this gap. There's this inner dissonance between I want this, I say I want this, I'm making a plan for this, I know I need to do this, and I know how to do it, but I'm not actually doing it. That means that those are conscious desires, those are conscious thoughts, those are conscious wants. That's a conscious plan. But subconsciously, there's something sabotaging it. And that comes down to your behavior patterns. That comes down to those subconscious beliefs that are internal. And so you can figure out what those beliefs are by just observing the patterns of where you aren't showing up in your life in the aligned way, where's the perfectionism showing up for you, or the hyper need for control, or the not setting the boundaries, or the people pleasing, or the masks that you feel like you need to wear and you're kind of like performing and you're losing authenticity, or you feel a sense of disconnected or disease, like that friction and that resistance, that stress, that overwhelm. Where is that showing up? And what are the behaviors that are kind of like perpetuating it and the triggers around there? And really just observe it, again, with a very sense of compassionate curiosity, because we all have this. We all get stuck in sabotaging patterns. Sabotaging patterns are really there to protect us. They're just a form of protection from something, some internal insecurity or fear, or limiting belief inside. And so getting to the root, starting to kind of reprogram that by creating powerful reframes, which you can do on your own for sure by just kind of sitting in stillness and silence. But it also really helps to have a third party help you create the powerful reframes with a different perspective and level of thinking than you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you then, coaching people and sharing all this amazing wisdom with us, how do you keep your brain, your body healthy, which then ultimately keeps your business healthy?
Yeah. Again, like mental workouts, like I said, like slowing down, really being aware, like journaling is a huge thing for me. That is so helpful because, like I said, there's a lot going on in here.
A lot.
So I can get out of here. That allows me to more easily observe it.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to observe my own thoughts in my thoughts.
Yes. Because then you overthink and the voice is a bit louder.
Right. It's a powerful superpower that we have as humans. It's called metacognition. It's our ability to observe our own thoughts that not a lot of other, no other living creature is able to do. But we are able to observe our own thoughts, which is our superpower, which allows us the ability to create different thoughts through the power of neuroplasticity. So yeah, journaling is a huge practice of mine. Anything that's in my head, it comes out into my head, and I journal a lot, and it allows me to create more powerful reframes and observe them and be like, nope, this is a negative thought, or this isn't actually true. I don't have evidence for this. Also, when it comes to from an emotional side of things, I think one of the most powerful ways I take care of my brain is literally just honoring my emotions and my triggers. And this isn't like, I don't necessarily believe in like coddling yourself or like toxic positivity. I believe in like pulling yourself out on your own triggers and like actually doing something, taking action to move through them instead of just like kind of sitting in them. So movement is a huge thing for me. Like when I feel myself getting triggered or stressed or emotions coming up, I don't just kind of like suppress them or regulate them. Like I'm like, we're going to figure out what's causing this and so that I don't get reactive again. So that this doesn't happen over and over and over again, because that's just a Band-Aid. And so movement really helps me kind of like work through those emotions. And it's a huge way that I continue to take care of my brain is exercise, movement, working out. And then also like setting boundaries and disconnecting from work, because work will consume me all the time. I like to create a healthy separation from work, not just within my own self-worth and my self-image being attached to the, vanity metrics of building a business, but also actually physically creating, cutoffs and spending time with people that I love and like having fun in my life, having hobbies and things, hobbies and things that fulfill me outside of just what I do. And that's helped me just continue to unpack different layers and pieces of myself that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I do have this whole other side of me that like it can be more quote unquote feminine, or, embracing my womanhood has been like a huge piece of my healing. Is just like what self-care, not in
Yeah.
like your typical sense, but like actually just like prioritizing myself
Yeah.
over other things and pouring into my relationships
Mhm.
have really helped me a lot with
Yeah.
my mental health.
I think it's really difficult because I know I face this challenge more times than I would care to admit, but it's hard to change because it's something that it's a belief, right? It's like, I am this person, I do this thing. You define yourself by what you're doing. And then to have this breakthrough and this, like, this questionable thought, and then wanting to make that change, it's really difficult to break through and do that, because then you're like, well, will people see me the same? Will they not see me the same? Will they like me? Will they not like me? And there's this fear of even wanting to change because you don't know. The unknown is so strong that you know, no one's going to want to be around me. Will I even want to be around myself, kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. There's a
Yeah.
lot of shame in
Yes.
in the evolution of your identity.
Yeah.
Likely also usually because a lot of our life is built, our whole life is built around that. So a
Yeah.
lot of times in the evolution of an identity is also a breakup of
Hmm.
relationships or
Yeah.
partnerships that were once aligned but aren't anymore, or an
Hmm.
entire business pivot or switch to something that was once really successful and fulfilling that you have a different purpose for,
Hmm.
or yeah, things just like, because also there's going to be things in your outside world that are going to shift and change as you change internally. And I think that more so is the scarier piece. We
Yeah.
know, we feel the pull, we change internally.
Hmm.
The first three pillars of like the transformational journey or process that I take with my clients is all internal, and that takes a lot of work. But the
Yeah.
fourth piece that a lot of people miss is actually making those changes externally, because sometimes those are the
Mhm.
hardest things, but you just keep yourself stuck into this box. And then that's really also where a lot of that disconnect and dis-ease starts to show up. And someone that I talk about all the time when we talk about this evolution is Taylor Swift. I did a whole
Mhm.
podcast on her because I think she is a great embodiment of the shameless evolution
Yeah.
as you evolve. For her as a woman, I mean, she started her journey as like a 19-year-old, and now she's what,
Yeah.
almost 30. And like, we've seen her go through all of these different evolutions of her
Yeah.
identity and her life. And she has shamelessly allowed herself to do that. And
Mhm.
now she's being praised for it. She's literally doing an Eras tour that
Yeah.
literally is the embodiment of this. So like, she has become this, I
Yeah.
think, icon for allowing women to just,
Yeah.
we are humans meant to evolve, especially as high achievers. We are
Mhm.
meant to be on that edge of our comfort zone
Yeah.
all of the time. We thrive there.
Yeah.
And not letting yourself thrive there
Mhm.
outside of your comfort zone, where it is scary, where change is happening, but you're leaning into it instead of leaning out of it, having trust and faith and it all comes down to like having a core solid relationship and foundation with yourself, knowing that anything that changes externally will not rock your sense of self internally, because
Yeah.
you're so grounded and true in that. And so as you're evolving internally and
Mhm.
allowing yourself to do that without making a past version of yourself wrong or bad, allowing yourself to do that, you'll be okay no matter what happens on the
Mhm.
outside. No matter who desires to
Absolutely.
come along, or who wants to judge, or who wants to, box you in, because that will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, usually I say it's like this projection that people are have within themselves, that as you're changing, as you're developing, as you're becoming that better version of you, they're not comfortable with themselves, or they're not comfortable with making those same changes. And then they're like, oh, why are you doing that again? Or you're doing something new again, or this wasn't new 5 years ago. And it's sad because it's not getting embraced. And then you are going to put yourself down because like, oh my gosh, are they right? Should I not do that? Should I do this instead? But it's like, no, you have to just stand in your power. And there's like this amazing quote. I'm seeing it all over Instagram, and it's, faith is even if, but fear is what if. And so I
Mhm.
always try, if I have like this thought, like, what if I change and people leave me? But even if I change and people leave me, I'll still be happy with myself. Right. So
Yeah,
it's changing the mindset. It's changing how you talk to yourself, which allows for that external, internal change to be so beautiful.
yeah. I always say, like, when we are facing fears, like, I map out that worst case scenario with all of my clients. It's like,
Yeah.
your fear does come true.
Yeah.
Even if this
Yeah.
fear does come true, you're still going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that creates safety within the fear. Or
Mm-hmm.
you have a backup plan. I always create a prevention plan. This is what we're doing to prevent the fear from actually coming true. But
Yeah.
here's also the recovery plan that we have put in place that, like, even if the fear comes true, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
You know?
I love that. A prevention plan and a fear plan. Like you know what I really am appreciating from your style of coaching and just from talking with you on this episode, how you actually allow women to embrace these fears or these emotions that people see like, but just let that go. Just don't think about it. Let's focus on something positive. It's like, no, let's just like take that, let's sit with it for a second and let's like marinate in it. And then let's try and find that light at the end of the tunnel once we're so in that fear, in that low frequency emotion, because you already know what it's like to be there. Now let's try and see what it's like to get out of there. And I really love that from your coaching and just learning about you on this episode. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That means so much. I mean, that really is the foundation, like, of shadow work. And one of the philosophers that I love so much, who is the kind of like shadow work leader. His name's Carl Jung. He has a quote. I'm gonna butcher the quote, but it goes something like, "What you suppress will be expressed, or what you repress." Express or something like that, but
Yeah.
really ultimately, like, what you try to push down and hide yourself from will find a way to show up somehow, some way,
Yeah.
subconsciously. Like,
Yeah.
you can't run away from these things. And the
Yeah.
more that you actually just create awareness around it, the more powerless that it becomes. And so I'm really all about, like, these negative, quote unquote, dark, uncomfortable emotions, behaviors, thoughts. The more that you can actually just change your relationship with them,
Yeah.
the more embodied, the more authentic, the healthier, the more in control you become.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And it's really beautiful. Once you have that control, it's not a dominance, it's not a superiority. It's just taking life by the reins and guiding it where you want it to go. And that is the most beautiful, beautiful thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
almost maybe the better word for that I should have used is, like, conscious. And,
Yep.
like, that's
Yep.
kind of like,
Consciousness. Yeah.
that's the first pillars, like, of my program and my work, is like self-conscious. Is like,
Yeah.
let's just become conscious of what was once unconscious, because it did hold so much pain, shame, kind of like negative energy. Become conscious of it.
Yeah.
And now you are
Absolutely.
the creator. You are able to, yeah, create from, like, a very
Yeah.
conscious, aware, empowered, off of autopilot, default mode, conditioning, kind of like, one-way track that we can get stuck in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Gabby, honestly, I could talk to you for like the rest of the day. It was such a pleasure chatting with you, learning about you, and diving into such beautiful conversation. I feel like I've known you, and this is like the first time we've ever met. So thank you so, so much. Where can our amazing listeners find you, whether it be on Instagram or on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. So my Instagram handle is just my name, Gabby Villermaux. I also have an Instagram for the 1% Woman. It's 1% Woman _. I also have a podcast, 1% Woman podcast, and yeah, that's where you can find me.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I am so looking forward to releasing this episode and get everyone to tune in because it is so powerful. It's so amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was such a
Of
pleasure.
course, of course. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the EmpowHer Collective show. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights from today's episode. If you're ready to take your business and your well-being to the next level, we would love to help you on your journey. Don't forget to join our free Facebook community linked below for ongoing support and resources. And if you're looking for personalized guidance, book a one-on-one call with me, also linked below. Let's balance your brain, your body, and your business so we can continue to empower you and elevate you to success. We'll see you at the next episode.